prophecy from Isaiah 25, has a very dramatic contrast. And it uses a very striking image to describe the situation of the world. The image of a burial cloth, a shroud. And he says this like there's a shroud spread over the entire earth. Gray, ashen, this pall of death that covers everything that we do. It's like it takes a beautiful day like today and takes all the color out of it. It's like living in black and white and gray. Everything is dull. Everything is just a postponement of the inevitable coming of death. And very similar to that image of a spider web being woven over the kind of suffocating and you can't get out. I couldn't help but think of that image from the movie The Lord of the Rings years ago, when they're caught by the spider and spun in those webs and you're just paralyzed and trapped. And then in contrast to that very heavy, sad, dark image is this beautiful image. On his mountain, the Lord is going to throw a party, have a feast. And I love this description. A feast of rich food and choice wines. Not enough. Juicy, rich food and pure choice wines. Okay, it makes you want to almost salivate, right? You're like tasting, like whether is it that filet mignon or is it the wine? And it's very evocative, right? And what a contrast to the burial shroud of death and the feast of the living God, right? Discouragement, shadows, no energy, just draining down, and lively party, juicy, rich wines and succulent foods, and it shows the hope that the Lord holds out to us, that breaks through in a new and a dramatic way in the person of Jesus. And the gospel gives us two events in which that kingdom, that feast breaks through here and now. The one is the bringing of everyone who is afflicted by conditions or diseases that would have kind of left them aside, maybe covered them with a burial shroud. The deformed, the lame, the blind, the mute, the excluded, the looked down upon, the canceled. And they bring them to Jesus, and this beautiful restoration, right? The lame walking, the blind seeing, the deformed made whole, the deaf able to hear. In Luke's gospel, this is given to the messengers of John as the proof of who Jesus is. And if that is not enough, then after all of this preaching and restoration, people haven't eaten for 3 days. I get hungry if I miss a meal. And I don't want to send them away like this. Give them something. What are we going to do? Well, what do you have? We have these 7 loaves. Bring them to me. And he multiplies the food and feeds them. Another breakthrough of that kingdom, that feast, that celebration that is the image of heaven. Now, this is the challenge, brothers and sisters, because not everybody at the time of Jesus was healed. And the people who received food that day could have been hungry a later day. How do we understand this? Are we supposed to be living in a kind of perpetual miracle farm? Is that what Jesus is teaching us? So that if we just had enough faith, we can go to the ATM of miracles and withdraw whatever we want from that, a vending machine of signs and wonders? Well, no. It's like what Isaiah is saying, that in Jesus, that kingdom breaks through and points us to its full realization in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus doesn't come to bring a utopia. And anybody who pretends to promise us a utopia here is lying. But what he does do is allow that kingdom to break in and redirect us here, but point us toward its fulfillment in the kingdom of heaven. So brothers and sisters, whenever the love of Christ and the grace of God breaks through, a little drop of that succulent wine, a little taste of that juicy, rich food is given. And it's part of our mission to allow that to happen. it can happen in miraculous ways, but it can also happen in what we might consider ordinary ways. Gestures of kindness. Those of you who were here last night, that religious sister kissing being able to see the beauty of that deformed child in a way that totally confounded the man who saw it. That's the kingdom breaking through. Anytime there is a gesture of kindness, of mercy, forgiveness. A beautiful Catholic writer, Simone Weil, French, she lived during the Second World War. She said something really amazing, that whenever a piece of bread is given by a Christian to someone who is hungry, it's like you're feeding them with the love of Christ. It's almost like giving them the Eucharist. When it's motivated by love and is an expression, an extension of the breakthrough of Christ. That's astounding, to think that when I offer some help, mercy, kindness to someone who is suffering, the kingdom of God breaks through. And we take one step further, closer to that destination. One other point. In every account of the multiplication of loaves in the New Testament, and it's there 6 times, twice in Matthew, twice in Mark, once in Luke, once in John. You could argue it's the most prominent miracle of the New Testament. Every time it's recounted, language is used to make us think of the Last Supper, to make us think of the Eucharist. Jesus takes bread, gives thanks, breaks the bread, gives it to his disciples. The same words that I will use later today at Mass. Because it is here, in the most dramatic, the most realistic, concrete way, that kingdom breaks through. It's not, there's no special effects, there's no background music. It is a matter of faith, but it is a miracle. And that kingdom breaks through to break into my life precisely so that I can be the bearer of that hope, that light, that joy to other people. That's why, in a sense, Mass doesn't end with the blessing. That the final phrase, ite missa est. Go, you are sent to be a missionary, to be a messenger, to be somebody in whom the kingdom of Christ has entered in this Mass, and through whom he desires that kingdom, with its light, its joy, its juicy wine, its rich food, its hope, its encouragement, its life, can break through in the lives of others.